I am continuing with my reading of the standard works. What I am doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order according to events, not according to publication or volume, so I am skipping around just a little bit. I have finished reading in Genesis, so the first about 2,000 years of the Earth's history, a little more than that. But around there, we are now in our timeline. We have reached the Egyptian period, the Egyptian captivity of Israel. And while we don't have any scriptural record of that period in Egypt, there are portions of the Book of Ether in the Book of Mormon that are occurring at the same time. So I am reading in Ether. My previous video was to begin in chapter 9, and this video I will be continuing and finish chapter 9. Hopefully, if it doesn't, chapter 9 is a deep chapter, got a lot of stuff here. So we will see if we can get through the rest of chapter 9 here. We will be starting in verse 16. And the Lord began again to take the curse from off the land, and the house of Emer did prosper exceedingly under the reign of Emer. And in the space of 62 years they had become exceedingly strong, insomuch that they became exceedingly rich, having all manner of fruit, and of grain, and of silks, and of fine linen, and of gold, and of silver, and of precious things, and also all manner of cattle, of oxen, and cows, and of sheep, and of swine, and of goats, and also many other kinds of animals which were useful for the food of man. And they also had horses and asses, and there were elephants, and curelams and cumams, all of which were useful unto man, and more especially the elephants and the curelams and cumams. Let us pause there for just a quick moment. When you see the prosperity of the people now, they are living in peace. It has been 60 years, and they are now a strong, prosperous people. They've got the wealth here. They've got a lot of animals, a lot of flocks. So it took several years to wipe them out in the rebellions and secret combinations of Achish. We had 2 years of Emer reigning after all the destruction. Now it's another 60 years. We got all this prosperity. I just want to mention briefly the Curelam and the Cumam. We don't know what they are. Joseph Smith stated that these are animals that existed, but at least at the time of Joseph Smith, there was no modern equivalent to translate them into. So they are extinct animals that were unknown, at least at the time of Joseph Smith. Some people have speculated that they were the woolly mammoths, but I doubt this because the mammoths were known at the time of Joseph Smith. People knew they existed. They knew they existed in the Americas. And I think they would be just considered another type of elephant. So what they are is unknown. My personal speculation is that they're some kind of large herbivore dinosaur, because I believe the dinosaurs and humans did exist together. But that's just my personal speculation. So let us move on from there. Verse 20. And thus the Lord did pour out his blessings upon this land, which was choice above all other lands. And he commanded that whoso should possess the land should possess it unto the Lord, or they should be destroyed when they were ripe in iniquity. For upon such, saith the Lord, I will pour out the fullness of my wrath. And Emer did execute judgment in righteousness in all his days. And he begat many sons and daughters. And he begat Coriantum. And he anointed Coriantum to reign in his stead. And after he had anointed Coriantum to reign in his stead, he lived 4 years. And he saw peace in the land. Yea, and he even saw the Son of Righteousness, and did rejoice and glory in his day. And he died in peace. So this gives us a rundown of Emer. We don't get a lot of detail about Emer, but he had peace throughout all his time. He never had any conflicts, any wars. Great prosperity, and he saw Christ, the Son of Righteousness. And he says, and he rejoiced and did rejoice and glory in his day. Now, is he rejoicing and glorying in his own day, meaning he's rejoicing about his prosperity and the peace and all the blessings of God here, or is he rejoicing in what he saw in vision of Christ's day. It's a little bit ambiguous there, but I think he actually saw a vision of Christ's earthly ministry and atonement, and that's what it's talking about here. But Emer was obviously a great man, very righteous, very faithful man, to have been able to see Christ in this way. He wasn't a prophet, he was a king, but we see that anybody who has this kind of faith and lives righteously can see visions, can receive great knowledge. Emer shows us this. But let us continue on now. Well, I do want to just, one last comment is, this is 60 years after Omer. Omer became king at about the time that Israel would have gone into Egypt. That would have been about the time period. He would have been king probably for 60 or 70 years. This is 60 years afterwards, so we are approaching now the end of the Egyptian captivity of Israel. So that is our timeline here. Verse 23, and it came to pass that Coriantum did walk in the steps of his father, and did build many mighty cities, and did administer that which was good unto his people in all his days. And it came to pass that he had no children, even until he was exceedingly old. And it came to pass that his wife died, being 102 years old. And it came to pass that Coriantum took to wife in his old age a young maid, and begat sons and daughters. Wherefore he lived until he was 142 years old. Okay, I do want to mention this here. This is our little nugget of, these are the little clues that we look for when we are looking at timelines and trying to orient the stories of the scriptures together so that we get a clear picture of world events, not just the episodes as they are presented. When we understand how things are aligning in time, we get a better understanding and better appreciation of these events. So this tells us, when the record here, when the book of Ether talks about living to an exceedingly old age, well, he only lived to be 142. Now, Jacob was 147, Abraham 175, and Isaac 180. So an exceedingly old age seems to infer that these men were living like this, around 140. And we take this little nugget here, this little clue, and we can then kind of extrapolate and say, well, the people here, they were all living probably about 140 years. And that is how we can align our timeline. That is how we can estimate, as I said, that Omer became king when Israel first goes into Egypt. At this point, we can see, as I said, Omer was king for probably 50 or 60 years, maybe a few more. Add 60 years for Emer, and you get near the end of the Egyptian captivity. We now have the rule of Coriantum, again, a righteous man. He followed in the footsteps of Emer, so he was a very righteous king. By the end of his reign, we can know that we are now at the time of the Exodus in the Bible. That is how it lines up. But we know this because of this little piece. I think he's the only guy in the entire book of Ether that we are given an age for. We can't place him, we can't place the year, the specific year, because we aren't given enough information for that kind of detail. But we are given this little bit of information and are able to piece together when these things are happening in relation to each other. We can line up the book of Ether to the Bible and get a general sense of how they are together. We actually got quite a bit left, so I'm going to end this video here, and we will finish this chapter in a third video. So this will be my second 3-part video. See you in the next one.